Hello, everybody. We're the McCain Brothers. With us today is animator John Pomeroy. John, how you doing?
Just fine, thank you.
Welcome to Oklahoma. You are an animator. At one time, you were a Disney animator.
That's
that
true.
was about 10 years ago.
That's correct, yes.
How did you get started working as an animator?
Oh, I suppose it started when I was very young. I was working with clay and sculpting, and then I developed an interest in drawing and painting, and around 13 years old, I read a book called The Art of Walt Disney, which was written in the early 40s during the heyday when they were doing Snow White, Bambi, and Pinocchio, and I became immediately fascinated and addicted to the art form. And right then and there I said, well, this is what I want to do as a career. So I set about immediately writing letters, sending in portfolios, and trying to get into the doors of the great animation mecca of the world, Disney Studios. And finally I did at age 21, and that's where I met my two partners who I work with now, Gary Goldman and Don Bluth.
Being an animator, what does your day consist of? What do you do right when you get in?
Well, usually I get in around 6 or 7 in the morning. I'm immediately preparing myself with being hit by 24 animation questions all at once. It's an involved process because it involves not only good draftsmanship, but you also have to be sort of an actor with a pencil. Usually our animators involved in making movements that depict a real living live personality, and that's a very difficult process to master at first. It takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication.
I mean, you deal with expressions, right? I
Correct.
mean, when say a dog or something would act surprised, I mean, you've got to draw the eyebrows up and get
That is correct.
like this, right?
That's correct. Every action, every motion has to be invented from the animator's mind's eye. And so when he's animating a dog character, he literally has to become that dog, else it won't be convincing or believable.
What are some of the films you've worked on?
Well, let's see. Some of the films I worked on over at Disney's with my two partners were Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2 and Rescuers. And then after we left, our first feature film that we did was a film called The Secret of NIMH. And then after that, we became involved with Steven Spielberg, and we produced two films, American Tail and the dinosaur film Land Before Time, which was released last year. And now we have just completed, and we are releasing our new feature film, All Dogs Go to Heaven.
What was it like working with Steven Spielberg?
It was a very interesting process. He's an extremely creative individual. It was his first time he's ever been involved with animation. He's an animation aficionado, and he loves the art form, wants to support it, wants to see it grow. And we met him right after we had did our first feature film, Secret of NIMH. He thought that particular type of art form was dead and lost until we produced that film. And immediately he told us he wanted to be involved in our next feature film, which we did.
Who's your favorite character to draw?
Oh my goodness. I have a few. One of my favorites was this little girl character that's in our current feature, All Dogs Go to Heaven. Yeah, a little 6-year-old girl by the name of Anne-Marie. I really enjoyed animating on her.
Now, Burt Reynolds is in that picture too, or actually his voice is, I guess I should say.
Yeah, and it was delightful working with him. We met him in 1983. We proposed an idea of working on a feature film with him at the time. He loved the idea, but we became involved in other projects, and we didn't get back together again until about 1987. And a good friend of Burt Reynolds is, of course, Dom DeLuise, and we worked on him in two previous films, American Tail and Secret of NIMH. So he loved the idea of doing the voice for this particular dog character, Charlie B. Barkin, who's kind of a rogue and a con man gambler, and he kind of infused his own nature and personality into this dog character, and it worked very well.
So are you pleased with the film?
Yes, I am. Yes, we're very happy with it. We hope we continue producing films like this. It's a different type of film that we have produced before. It's not your ordinary dog story. It's kind of a interesting tale about this con dog who gets involved with this little girl and learns what it is to care about another individual outside of himself.
You've brought out some pictures here.
Yes.
Kind of show us maybe the process of animation.
Well, usually what happens is, of course, we have to write a script first, Butch, and then the scenes are handed to the animator in the form of what we call an exposure sheet. Now, after we record the dialogue, it's exposed on this chart so that you know precisely on what drawing where the vowel or a consonant of a spoken word happens and occurs during the course of the film. That's how you get the absolute and perfect synchronization if a character pronounces the word for or whatever.
Well, it's like a science.
It's an absolute science.
Form that like that in the
you have to draw all these little precise little lip movements to coincide with the vowels and consonants and syllables on the soundtrack. And then what happens is the animator will rough out the entire scene in action. Now I can flip this for the camera, hold that up like that. But all of these drawings represent, if I could hold this from the bottom here, they represent all the succinct little steps in the action.
And shoot, this is probably only about 5 or 10 seconds worth of film right here, isn't it? And
Exactly.
Look how much
What do you
paper.
think? John Butch seems to know a little bit about animation. You think he's got a career? You think he can make a career?
That's really crazy. I mean, there's just so much work involved. And as we mentioned, this is like 5 or 10 seconds worth of film,
Right.
and you have to draw so many. Computers probably help you out quite a bit, though, don't they?
Yeah, they're a wonderful additive to our production. They help us take a lot of shortcuts as far as very difficult problems like handling three-dimensional models and perspectives and things like that. But it can't really quite replace the inventing of a personality. Humans have to do that. It's a very difficult process. But
Describe this for us, if you would, John.
well, if these rough drawings are finally cleaned up and then the lines are Xeroxed onto clear acetate cells, Ben, which we'll show here, and then they are painted within the lines on the reverse side, and then each individual celluloid drawing is shot against a watercolor painted background. This is basically the way the process has been existing for the last 60, 70 years. And then each drawing in succession is shot against this background, one at a time. So animation is definitely making a comeback. It's the animation renaissance.
John, thank you very much for joining us. Is it Pomeroy? That is correct.
That is correct,
Pomeroy.
yes.
John Pomeroy, animator, and best of luck to you, and especially with the new film.
Yeah,
Thank
we'll
you.
watch All Dogs Go to Heaven. We'll watch for it.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back right after this. Don't go away.